Happy late Wednesday afternoon. How you been? Hey, Jabba, my buddy, my number one fan, my number one retard, and I cannot forget my number two fan, my number two retard, Joe Mad, who has no content on his channel, no nothing, doesn't want anyone to know what he looks like, who he is, what his name even is. Yeah, you're a real brave motherfucker, let me tell you. That's why I'm so jealous of you. Like I'm jealous of Jabba and his 57. Guys, get a break. You won't have to see me again until Sunday. It'll be later in the day Sunday. I got Steve covering for me tomorrow at the VTH. That's why I went in today. I covered for him. He had something to do. So I said, hey, Sienna, I covered for you. Could you do me a favor? Could you take my Thursday? I said, no problem. You know, the three of us help each other out. We all have a life. Things come up. Especially now, man, we get into the summer. All the things that we can't do over the winter, we want to do it, you know. Everyone's, their lifestyle changes here, especially on the peninsula, you know. Where there's the ocean, water, boating, outdoor activity, festivals, car shows. So much goes on there. Can't do this shit in the winter, you know, so we look forward to it. So, we're going to be leaving early tomorrow morning. We're going to see Jerry and Christy up in New Hampshire, North Lincoln, Franconia Notch. We go up there a couple of times over the summer. They got a nice place there, next to Cannon and Loon Mountains. And we're going to do a little camping, a little canoeing. And yes, we wear white vests when we go out in the canoe. And it's only like 3.5 hours up there, depending on traffic. So we're going to be leaving about 6 in the morning. We'll be there about like 10 the latest in the morning. Gives us plenty of time to get there and order all that shit. And then meet up with them at their house. Then we go over to Echo Lake. He's already got a campsite reserved for us. And we'll be there, you know, the rest of the day tomorrow, Friday, Saturday. And Sunday we'll pack in and leave early so we can get back here before Auntie Billy's going to go in for a shift Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock to the hospital. So we'll pack it in, be on the road by 7. We'll be back home by 10:30. Gives her time to do what she's going to do to get ready for work, you know. So, hey, you won't get to see me for a while. Try not to be mad at me. Anyway, so I heard today somebody say, hey, Brian, check this out. What? I said, Jabba, what's he up to now? You know, he says, oh, this was good. He says, put out a video. He says, right from the get-go, he talks about you. Yeah, I know. He says, hey, Brian, he says, yeah, I know Brian's been waiting for me to put up another video so he can make fun of me. Well, Jabba, you got half of that right. I haven't been waiting for you to put up a video, but I will enjoy making fun of you, as usual. He says, Brian, I tell you, he goes off trying to validate himself. He says, even in the title of the video, that his way of thinking is the right way or spot on, something like that. He says, and he's all with his usual cocky, arrogant smugness, like smirking, like, see, I know what I'm talking about. I don't care what Brian and everybody else says. I know what I'm talking about, and he's going to prove it. Every time, hey, Job, every time you try to prove yourself right, you sound more and more like a fucking babbling idiot. You know, he says, oh, he's going off on all the problems he's got with it. He lost all his compression. So he did a compression test on a couple of cylinders. Compression's very low. But he didn't, but he's saying it's because of the oil. He says, he went on and on and on, he says. He says in the comment threads, what was not very flattering. You know, people like, dude, you know, did you do this? You know, when you rebuild an engine, he says, oh, in his engine rebuild, he said he replaced one piston. Because it was the original flat top. But he put this is where it gets good. He said, Brian, you ever hear of a valve release piston? I said, no, I've heard of a valve relief. Relief, not release. He says, yeah, he said he put a valve release piston in there. Jabba, you don't even know the fucking names of things. You know? So that could be the problem because it has gappage. I went to go watch it, but I couldn't. This is where it gets even better. Because it has gappage to let air go through it. So that's how he's losing his compression. He says, you tell me. He says, he made no fucking sense. He rambled on and on. We did a compression on this cylinder, that cylinder, and he's saying, well, I guess, all that oil that's flooded with gas in there, still sitting in there. He hasn't even changed the oil. Okay. You know what that shit does to bearings, man? Then he's talking about an engine being gas washed. You get too much gas going through the head. It gets down into the piston, and it washes all the oil away from the cylinder wall and the piston rings, and it's called a wash. Hey, Java, maybe you should be more concerned about getting your ass in a bathtub and wash that fucking thing. It's called a wash, he says, and Brian, the way he says it, it's with an arrogance and a smug, cocky look. Like it's called a wash. Like, Jabba thinks he's teaching people things they don't know. Oh yeah, we all know what gas washing is. Oh yeah, we all know about compression loss. Through blown out rings in a cylinder, through blown head gaskets. And even in these two areas, blown head gasket, now you're spitting out fluid. You know what I mean? How many cars I've seen? How many cars you go by, they're blowing all white smoke, steam out the back? They got a blown head gasket. They don't last very long, but some people still drive them. I've seen cars up in the New England dragway. They're fucking launching it. Yeah, they grab second, boom, blow a fucking head gasket. It's pissing, shit pouring out of the fucking headers, right? Now, when you blow out a ring, now you get blue smoke. And when your rings are real short and worn out, now you're throwing out oil, blue smoke, Jabba. That's the difference between white smoke out of an exhaust and blue smoke out of an exhaust. One is a blown head gasket, one are blown rings, worn out rings, okay? So yeah, it's because it's got gappage. Okay. I'm trying to remember as much as you could tell me. I wanted to go and watch it, but I couldn't. This is where it gets really good. It says in that he's got some things to do. He's going to still hasn't changed that oil. Oil is so bad, so much gas in it. Usually what happens, gas washing, you got a carburation problem, your fuel mixture is way too rich, There are reasons for things that obviously you don't have a fucking clue, Java. You're a walking clusterfuck. What makes you so funny is that you come on there talking like you're going to teach people things. You try to talk down to people like they're the fucking dummies and you're the expert. Hold on. Okay, sorry, I had to step away for a minute. You talk down to people with an arrogance, a cockiness, an ego, and a narcissism. Your way of thinking. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that again. I had a sneeze. It's allergy season here. I do have a couple little allergies of things. Nothing bad. Don't worry, I'm not going to end up on life support in the hospital. Don't worry, I'm fine. Take a little Benadryl. Believe me, with having a nurse here, this sounds like a fucking pharmacy with everything you need. From first aid to injuries to medicinal needs, cough, cold, flu, upset stomach, whatever. I didn't want to sneeze on camera. You know what I mean? Although, hey, Jabba, you burp and fart, so even if I sneeze, I don't think it will be half as bad as what you do. That's fucking humiliating and embarrassing, right? So, which is all Brian, man, what he was talking about. Then he asked to put a base pan gasket in. How long have you been talking about that? How many fucking months now? How many fucking months have you been talking about how you got to put a base pan gasket in? Because it's so bad, you put oil in it and it's just pissing right out. How much oil you put in that fucking thing? All the oil sitting well below that fucking gasket. Then he's talking about how, well, what happens is the oil pump, if there's a gappage or a crack in it, now it's going to suck gas up into the cylinder head. I went, what? He said, yeah. He said, you can get a gappage. And now it's going to pump gas up into the cylinder head. It's going to get into the cylinder and wash it. I said, Brian, come on, man. I'm not making this shit up. I said, no, I know you're not. It's just, even at times, Jabba, even at times you amaze me. Then he said he's going to put a rear main seal on it. Hey, you ever put that new gasket on the fucking timing chain too? That thing is bleeding to death. It seems to be leaking everywhere, according to you. So you got oil in there with A lot of gas in it. You know what that shit does to your crankshaft and your bearings? Hey, how far did you go in school? Hey, how do you do in school? Are you still the record holder for reading the most crayons on the short school bus? You know what acid is? Acidity? You know, do you know that even oil on its own, it gets acidic? That's part of the reason why you want to change your oil. As it breaks down, it loses its viscosity. It becomes very acidic. Crude oil in its natural state is very acidic. The refinement process and additives put into it, you reduce a lot of that acidity. But over time, it will revert back to being very acidic. So you know what acid is, right? You know what acid likes to eat when it gets hungry? It likes to eat metal. Hey, Java, what is your engine made out of? Especially the internals, your crank, your bearings, your rods. What is it made out of? Metal. So you're leaving all that. According to you. According to you. You know, guys that have gas-washed engines. It's a wash. He says, Brian, it's called a wash. Real cocky with a smirk, like a smiling smirk on his face, like he's teaching people what gas washing is. Yeah, that's when your car's running too fucking rich, your carburetor ain't adjusted right. Because I've seen it happen with guys with big cars, so always they think throwing bigger and bigger jets on it's going to make it go faster, and all they do is, you know, yeah, I've seen gas wash engine. You walk by those cars, oh man, almost raw fuel coming out the fucking exhaust. Yeah, that excessive mixture in there can work its way, you know, into the combustion chamber, and then it can work its way down into the crankcase where it will settle in and mix in with the oil, and then you got a serious fucking problem. And when that happens, you know what these guys do? The first thing they do is get that fucking oil out of there, and then they go into their carburetor and they start working on it so that don't happen no more. So they don't burn up and fry all the fucking bearings in that thing. Unfucking believable job. Then he told me a couple more things, so I says, oh well. So I decided to go and watch it. I figured I'd give you a view. Maybe help you make some money, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm a nice guy like that, what can I say? So I went there, I'm like, so I call him back, I says, hey, what are you talking about? There's no video up with that. The last one there's from a few days ago when he was there with his face in the fucking camera yakking about something. So he said, wait, let me check. He says, hey, he took it down. I said, what? It ain't the first time you've done that. What happened? You realized once again you made a total fucking fool of yourself, calling things that it's not even what it's called. But that was funny. Yeah, he had to take a flat top piston out and he put a new piston in it, and it has a valve release. No, it's called relief. You know, like when you fart, you relieve yourself, you know. Well, I guess for your asshole, either one could apply. You release a fart, you relieve yourself, and you release a fart. I guess your asshole that applies. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that definitive and that precise and exact. When it comes to a piston, it's a valve relief, not release. Hey, what did you do to that cylinder? When you put that new piston in on it, did you at least hone it? Did you get a nice crosshatch pattern in there? Do you know anything about that? Listen, I got things to do. So anyway, Job, I hope you don't miss me for a few days. Catch up with you sometime Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I think Sunday afternoon. If I feel like doing something when we get back. In the meantime, all the rest of you, have fun, stay safe.